We're here with the State Representative Raul Torres. Mr. Torres, thank you for accepting to have this interview with us.
It's my pleasure, Adriana.
Thank you. Well, as a Hispanic and through my work through Voices Action and meeting with thousands of Hispanics, I know that Hispanics have conservative values. I know that you identify also with that. And I would like to know if you can share the ways that you have observed these among Americans of Hispanic background.
Well, let's just go over a couple, two or three of them that I've seen that I think we can all agree are conservative values. One would be family, the pro-family. These values are embedded in the Hispanic culture. One of the things I remember as a young man, growing up with my mother, a single parent, was that she always taught us that family is very important. And I see that in our community. Whether they are financially well off or they're economically challenged, we find families band together because that's the unit that keeps them feeling good about themselves. In schools, we see families working together. In the workplaces, I know I myself have a policy, family comes first, regardless of anything else. Because if the family is not right, the employee will not do well at work. If the family's not right, the children will not do well in school. So it does affect our culture. The other thing would, and back to the family, would be the pro-life issue. Whether you believe or accept the fact that abortion is legal, it is legal, but Hispanics tend to believe that family is very important, and for many of them, abortion is a very challenging issue for them. And so many of them believe that the sanctity of life is of key importance, and so they believe in that, and they go to church, and they pray, and they bind together with other people of like kind. So we have the family values, which are embedded in our culture every day, life and work, and also the pro-life. Another type of conservative values that we find in Hispanics is that they believe in the work ethic. That means they're not afraid to go to work. They're not afraid to put in a long days of work to work. My mother used to have 3 jobs at one time. I didn't understand it when I was a little boy, but I understand it since I've grown up. The importance for her to provide for her family. And that culture does that. And I see it so well in people that come across as immigrants, across from whatever country they are, whether it be Pakistani, Indian, Central American, or from Mexico or Canada. They work very hard to do well here when they're here. So they have that work ethic that I think is that's very strong in especially Hispanic values. So those 2 items are good examples of what I see every day in the community where I live.
Well, Mr. Torres, Corpus Christi and Nueces County are turning Republican, as we have seen in the last elections. Tell us more about that trend and what you are seeing in your district.
Well, the reason I believe that trend is happening is because people are becoming, number one, more educated. And because of that, the old approach of la palanca no longer applies to a lot of them. They're independent thinkers. They're either independent voters or they're changing their values processing, how they look at life. They're beginning to see that they don't need to depend on government for a lot of their own decision making or someone to tell them how to do things. They're going to college, they're raising families, and they believe in the power of their own personal abilities to make things happen in their communities. So I think that is what's transformed Nueces County. That plus people like myself who have gone into the community and said, look, you don't have to let somebody do your thinking, you can think for yourself. And all we ask is for you to think for yourself. Look at what we're saying, and then you decide what's best for you and your family. And people are responding to that, and we're seeing that trend in Nueces County.
Now, as a freshman representative on the Appropriations Committee and looking at the appropriations process, do you think the leadership is serious about government reform and efficiency?
In one respect, yes. They talked about all the things they've done over the last 15, 20 years. For example, the Sunset Bill, which every year, every biennium, the government looks at certain agencies and they do an examination of them and decide whether or not that agency should continue to exist in our government. And I think that's a great way to begin that process. And it's been working very well for us. But the other way, it doesn't go far enough. I believe there's still much more work to be done. And I personally believe government is too big, which means it's top-heavy. And I believe we can streamline it, we can make it more efficient, and make it work better for the people of Texas. So on one side, yes, they do work very hard at it from the appropriation side, but on the other side, no, because I still think there's more room to be able to work with that.
That's right. Mr. Torres, what are your ideas with regard to efficiency in the application of the Six Sigma principles to improve efficiency in government? Tell us about HB 3149.
Well, HB 3149 is pretty much the pinnacle of our legislative agenda. The voters sent us here to Austin for three things. They asked us to do three things, and we won on this platform. They asked us to do not raise taxes and balance the budget. They asked us to eliminate wasteful spending in government, rethink how government works, and they asked us to do what we can to create jobs in Texas. That was the mandate. We have been able to identify legislation that will address these three issues. HB 31 identifies the issue or works toward the issue of wasteful government spending. Every organization has waste, and I define waste as being a cost in the process of delivering that service or product that does not need to be there. So HB 31, when I learned about that methodology, I was very excited, and as we and my legislative staff looked into it, we got really excited that maybe this was the answer that government needed to address. So we did more examination, and we talked to the founder or the originator of the Lean Six Sigma, who put it all together. And so as we talked to him, we talked to the city manager from Irving, Tommy Gonzalez. And we had the pleasure to meet with the workforce commissioner from the state of Utah, who came down as well to speak on the behalf of that type of legislation. In every case, federal, state, and local government, in every case, each one of them has found significant savings to their programs. And I'll give you a very small example from the city manager of Irving. He spent $100,000 in implementing the process. But that they have now saved, in 2 years, I believe, 2 years, $20 million in expenditures. So their budget dropped from $188 million for a city budget down to $168 million a city budget with less staff, and the services they provide have been more efficient and much more acceptable to the citizens of Irving, according to the testimony we heard. That is phenomenal. The Department of Defense is saving tens of billions of dollars because Secretary Gates has said, and he's quoted saying, that the process is what drives those savings. We don't see it in the budget because he turns around and spends that money on additional equipment and needs for the military, which is good because we don't have to continue to raise taxes. And then, of course, the commissioner from the state of Utah talked about the savings that they are experiencing in Utah as she expands the program throughout the rest of the departments. So, without question, the evidence is there. This isn't science. This isn't a theory. This is proven science in the workplace, in government. If you want to look further into the corporate world, we find companies like Apple Computers, we find Xerox, we find Caterpillar, Ford Motor Company, Motorola. Major industries have used and implemented this technology or this methodology into workplace practices, and they're creating better products at a lower cost, which saves the consumer money at the end of the day. That's why I believe government should seriously consider looking at this, and that's why we did HB 3149.
Oh, that's amazing. Now, Mr. Torres, you and I have spoken before. I believe, as an immigrant myself, that everyone should speak English in this language. But as well, one of the reasons that I got excited when you were elected is the fact that you are one of few Republicans who actually speak in Spanish, and we're aware that in Texas there is a large number of people who speak Spanish. I know that you have been able to use. Do you think that Spanish is a good tool here in Texas to outreach and educate some of the Texans who still speak Spanish and feel that they can be informed a little bit much better in that language?
Yes, I think it's a big benefit. Anytime you're multi-language capable, you add an extra dimension that most people don't have. So when I was a little boy, through third grade, I didn't speak English. But then when I moved across the boundaries and went to a new elementary school, they didn't speak Spanish there like they did in the prior one. So I had to immerse myself in English very quickly and learn it. And then I lost the language. And then about when I was around 25, I decided that to worship with a Spanish-speaking congregation, even though I didn't understand. And once I became a Christian, and my brother said, "We really could use your help." I said, "But I don't speak Spanish." He says, "Well, you need to learn it." So what I did is taught it to myself. I learned Spanish with the Bible, like Abraham Lincoln. But in my case, the Bible was in Spanish. And I taught myself how to read it, how to write it, and how to speak it. And I'm not very proficient according to some other people's standards, but I get by and I get my message across. I think that skill has helped me in my professional career. It has helped me in my public career, and it's helped me be able to better understand not only how I think and why I think the way I think, but better understand why other people think, because it does come with the culture. Certain things come with the language, and so it's helped me a lot. And I would encourage anybody, if you have some time you can set aside, learn the language. It can only help you. Can I never hurt you?
Mr. Torres, I want to say thank you not only for serving the people of your district, but also thank you for serving the people of Texas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.